Well, hi everyone, and welcome to the Get Paid Acting and Modeling Jobs online workshop with Aaron Marcus. We have an amazing workshop for you today, and it's all centered around, obviously, getting paid acting and modeling jobs. Because really, as a professional actor and model, you need to get paid jobs. So let me introduce our host, Aaron Marcus. He's America's premier acting and commercial modeling career coach. He's also the top-selling author and founder of HowToModel.com, one of Google's top-ranked acting and modeling career sites. Aaron Marcus has been a full-time actor and commercial model since 1986. To date, he has been cast in 1,185 projects. You've seen Aaron in projects such as Burn After Reading, Law and Order, Criminal Intent, The West Wing, Broadcast News, Cry Baby, America's Most Wanted, Molson Beer, McDonald's, Kmart, A Modest Suggestion, and HBO's The Wire. You can see Aaron on NBC's upcoming new show, Do No Harm, in the role of Dr. Leopold. Aaron Marcus has also appeared in print ads throughout the United States, in Europe, the Netherlands, and Asia. He's written what many consider the most important book for commercial modeling, entitled How to Become a Successful Commercial Model. It's now in its 5th edition. He also writes and publishes the Tear Sheet newsletter, a quarterly commercial modeling and acting newsletter. Aaron, we are so excited to have you part of this workshop today.
Oh, I can't wait to get started, Joel. Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. This is really an exciting day. This workshop is something that's going to be just invaluable to you. Some of the information you might have heard a little bit about, but hopefully you're going to hear things from a different perspective. And the other thing, too, is I'm going to be introducing you to over 50 websites that are just going to be very helpful to you. And just a couple of things to keep in mind before we get started here. Number one, all the links that you're seeing during the workshop in the PowerPoint presentation, you are going to be receiving in a PDF file. So as we're going through this, don't feel like you've got to write any of the links down or jump off and start looking at some of the other links. Some of them I'm going to be going to, but you're going to have access to all of them in a separate PDF file with all the information. The other thing I just wanted to let you know, just to make things much smoother for me, what I did was for some of the, or actually all of the websites that I wanted to visit with you, I've already clicked on it and it's sitting just waiting for me to get to it. So anyhow, you'll see that as I go along. So let me start off by saying, as Joel mentioned, we can be the greatest actor, the greatest model in the world, but if you can't get work, it's not going to be helping you out if that's what your goal is to actually try to get paid. So what I'm going to be doing here is sharing a lot of different ideas with you. And like I said, in some things you might not have thought about a whole lot. And hopefully some of these will be very, very new ideas for you that you'll be able to incorporate in your acting and modeling work. So let's get started here. And the very first thing is a lot of people really don't spend the time joining acting and modeling groups. There are lots of groups out there that could be very beneficial to you. So let's take a look at one of them. And actually, there are two on this particular page. There's a company, it's meetup groups. And basically, and this is really cool, you can find different meetup groups around the world. And you'll find other people interested in the industry, people who want to do very similar things as you, people who will share information, who will tell you about what's going on in your area, maybe tell you about some of the agents, some new projects that are going on, some classes that will be very helpful to you. So let's take a look at the Acting and Meetup group. And here is the home page. And as you can see here, there are 475 different groups, almost 100,000 members, and they're in 220 cities in 15 different countries. So this would be a really great opportunity for you to network with other people. And that's also what this whole business is about, as far as networking, making contacts, learning more things. And I'm going to say this probably a couple of times throughout the day. just because you might be living in a secondary market, which means you're not living in New York, LA, Chicago, maybe Miami, although really New York, LA, and Chicago are considered the biggest markets. There might be some incredible jobs in your area, some wonderful agents, some incredible photographers, advertising agencies. So don't think that you have to live in a major market in order to find work. Okay, so let's go take a look. And you can see here there's also a meetup group for modeling as well. There's also a great list for Yahoo groups. So let me take you here, and what you're going to find is, and this is really, really helpful, there are tons. I mean, there's almost 1,200 different acting and modeling Yahoo groups. So what you want to do is just go to the various groups that you think would be of help to you, maybe in your area, or you might be able to find some really large ones that you can get some additional information from. So as you can see here, there are over 13,000 members in this one particular Yahoo group. And you'll see they're all over the place from many, many, many different areas. And this is, once again, it's a great way to connect with the industry, learn about different things that are going on, make new contacts, and you can get this stuff free, which is also wonderful. Okay, so let's take a look at some other places. There's, you probably have heard of LinkedIn. Many of you are part of LinkedIn. I know some people don't use it. It's more business oriented, but it can be very helpful to you. And so let's take a look at a LinkedIn site, and you'll see this is an acting one. There is tons of information, contacts, and you'll even see, and let me bring this back up for you, there's a LinkedIn group for modeling as well. And you can also get on a list where you are sent casting auditions, which is pretty amazing. So there are just many, many different types of places that you can go to that you might not have thought of before in order to get information about the industry. Now, normally people think about theater, they think about TV commercials, films, maybe industrial films, which are educational films, and commercial modeling work. But there are some other areas where you can use your talents and your skills and get paid for them. Many of you might not have thought about doing a cruise line, working on a cruise line. I'm not talking about taking a vacation. I'm talking about actually working on one. And there are a number of different cruise lines where actors, models, singers, dancers are hired to perform while you're on the cruise. So here are a couple of different websites that you can go to, and let's take a look at one. So in this particular one, you'll see here, this is for Carnival. They need staff, they need entertainment, they have karaoke people. This one, they need female vocalists for the cruise. There are lots of different opportunities on cruises. And you'll see here, you can even work on a Disney cruise if that's something that would be of interest to you. But you'll find all the information on their websites, where the auditions take place, what they want you to do for the audition, what they expect of you, what your salaries are, and those can be really interesting experiences. Another area that some of you might not have thought of are working at theme parks. And there are lots of different theme parks. They even have, like for Disney, there's a special college program. And you can check that out by using this link here. There is also, if you're interested in working at Disney, even if you're not in college, they hire all different types of talent for that. And by using this link, you'll get a lot of information about it. Here's something that I ran across. I just wanted to share with you. I thought it was pretty cool. You can actually audition for Universal Studios in Japan. And I'm thinking, that would be pretty cool to get hired. You're living in Japan, you're working there. I think that would be really an amazing, amazing experience. And actually, just so I don't get ahead of myself, there's also a company that I wanted to share with you. It's called RWS and Associates. And what these people do is they write, they produce, they cast all kinds of programming for different theme parks. So let me just show you really quickly. It's an incredible company. They're based in New York. And so you can check out their website and see if there's anything in there that would be of interest to you. Okay, so let's go take a peek. Now, extra work. Now, that is something that people have different philosophies about, and I'll share with you both thoughts. There are some people who say, look, don't do extra work. You're going to be labeled as an extra. You're never going to be considered for principal work. It's just not good for you to do that. And I understand that philosophy, especially if you are living in Los Angeles, because in Los Angeles, there are people who basically try to make a living just doing extra work. You could probably do that in New York in today's time as well, because there are so many projects happening there. You could work, almost every day during the week if that is of interest to you. Another way to view doing extra work is, and this is what I do, especially on the East Coast, where people can be doing extra work one day and doing principal work the next day. And the reason why I've always accepted extra work when I am free, if I'm available that day, is because, one, you do make some money. Now, if you're non-union, then you don't get paid very much, and it can vary. It can be anything from nothing, and they say, hey, we'll give you lunch, and you'll be able to, see the stars and maybe see yourself in the project, which, that's possible. If you are a member of SAG-AFTRA and you're getting paid union wages, you can probably average, and it all depends on how many hours you work. You're probably looking at about $180 for the day. Could be a couple of $100. I've made over 1,000 sometimes, but those are very unusual situations where, I was working 21, 22 hours straight, and there are lots of meal penalties and things like that. But the important thing is, and I think especially if you're just getting started, it will give you an opportunity to be on a set, whether it's a TV show or a feature film, and you get a better idea of what goes on, what takes place, what's expected of you, what's expected of the actors, just so that you get a really interesting experience. And just as a warning, sometimes you're treated really well, sometimes you're not treated so well. Every shoot's going to be different. But the other thing that's really helpful is you will get a chance to network with other people, and you'll get a chance to talk with some, other actors, models in the area, and they can fill you in on a lot of information. So anyhow, if you are interested in doing extra work and you're living in the New York or LA area, here are some places that you can go to. These are casting directors, and sometimes they do cast some, well, it varies. Primarily, what their primary job description is, they do extras casting. I'm not saying they would never do anything else but that, but that's what they primarily do. And so what you do is you can sign up with them, and they'll have your photo, they'll have your information, and when something comes up that's right for you, they'll email you, give you a call, and let you know that you're available for work. Let me just show you one place in particular. It is called Central Casting, and this has no association with the place in Washington, D.C. This is Central Casting. They have an office, like I said, in both LA and New York, and you can see they just hire all different types, depending on what is needed, and so it's really easy to get extra work that way. But there are plenty of other ways that you can find out about extra work, and I'm going to tell you about that in just a little bit. There are also places, there are websites that you can go to that list jobs. They list auditions, list jobs. And you're also going to be sent a separate PDF that has a link for a bunch of really good listservs where actually you can get emails sent to you daily, sometimes multiple times throughout the day, where you'll hear about jobs, auditions. There's other industry information in there as well. And like I said, you're going to get that sent to you separately. There's a place, it's called Mandy.com, and that's a place that you can go to and you'll find out information. You can also be on their mailing list. There's one about survival jobs that I just learned about recently, which I thought was really interesting. They're based in New York. Maybe they have other Facebook pages in other areas. Here's another one that I wanted to mention to you, but and actually I'm going to take you to their website in just a second. And it's Craigslist. You probably have heard of Craigslist. Let me also just say I am sending out a warning. For all of these places, let me just tell you, I'm sharing the information with you. I'm not endorsing any of them. And especially on a place like Craigslist, which is open to the world, you've got to be very careful. And there are some things on there that I'm sure are not going to be very good for you. And I mean, personally, I don't use it as a union actor. I can only do union acting jobs, and most of the jobs that I've heard that are on Craigslist are non-union. There are some modeling jobs there as well. I've never utilized Craigslist for that purpose, but I do know people who have gotten modeling jobs, acting jobs, voiceover jobs, very legitimate jobs. But once again, you've got to be very, very careful. And if you ever do see a listing, you want to, if it's a modeling job, go to the photographer's website. Make sure that you're seeing photos that you are comfortable with. The person's work is good. If it's some kind of acting job, in either case, you want to bring somebody with you, whether it's a modeling or acting job. If it's somebody you've never met, you can't be too careful. So I'm not trying to scare you away from doing it, but I am trying to scare you enough into letting you know that you do have to be very, very careful when you're not going through an agent and you're finding information, just online. But let's go to the Craigslist. Let me show you how it can work. So here is, it's a listing of Craigslist information throughout the world, which once again, it's just incredible. So in the United States, I'm just going to pick up, let's see, let me go to Ohio. That seems like a good place, so let me scroll down here a little bit. Here's Ohio. Let me go to Cleveland, and let's see what's going on in Cleveland for us. So clicked on Cleveland, and then you're going to see here, you can either post classifieds, people are selling things. What you want to do is, it's not for sale, you're going to click on this, and you're going to go to gigs. And you're going to be looking for, let's say, acting and modeling gigs. So then, whoops, let me go back to gigs, then you click the arrow, and let's take a look and see what's in here. So they have everything from mechanics, which if you're not a mechanic, that's not going to do you a whole lot of good. There are models who are needed in here. Female models, you've got to be 18 or over. I saw one just the other day, and then let me see if I can find it for you pretty quickly. And it was a paid modeling job, and let's see, here are fitness models that were needed, and let's see, modeling for cars. I have a feeling that sometimes, I mean, you will find things that are non-paying. Let's see, singers, female, let's see, let me keep going through here, because like I said, I did find a couple. There's one that's, okay, actors and actresses, here we go. Found one in Cleveland, and compensation, no pay. Now, I know this is a workshop about getting paid work, but just so you know, certainly it can also be very, very helpful to you to take on work that is not paid, to get more experience, put things on your resume, especially if it's a modeling job. Maybe it's a great photo that you can add to your website, your agent's website. Maybe it's a photo that you're going to use on your next composite sheet. But I just wanted to show you that you really can find models that get paid for their work. You know what, and I don't want to spend a super amount of time going through it. There's one in particular that I was trying to find, and if I don't see it in 1 second, I'm just going to move on. But anyhow, that's how you do it. You go to the, oh, here we go, need models, ASAP, 100 an hour. So anyhow, Craigslist can be helpful to you, but like I said, you've got to be very, very careful. Okay, so let's go to the next section. Listing of jobs, once again, there's one for freelance. I list things on my website when I hear about auditions, go-sees, or actual jobs. And here's one. Just because we do have people from around the world who are taking the online workshop. Here's one in Australia. So let's take a little peek here, and here we go. Casting Call Pro. And you'll see here they're looking for all different types of people, female, male, native Spanish. They need all different kinds of people. So there are places all throughout the world where you can get information about jobs. Okay, finding work. Let's keep going here. Here's one that that will be really helpful to you. It's film commissions. So let me take you here. This is a wild website. This lists film commissions throughout the world. The reason why this can be very helpful to you is because if you are living, well, actually, let's take a look at one. So let's go to the United States, and let me just grab, I'm just going to stick with Ohio. It's in the middle of, well, it's kind of East Coast, a little bit, kind of central, almost central. But anyhow, here's one. It's the Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky Film. Let's go to the Cleveland Film Commission. So the Cleveland Film Commission, here's a lot of information. They're talking about their film tax credits, which it's nice to read about, but what you really want to know about is upcoming events. And as I'm scrolling down here, I'm seeing, wow, there is going to be shooting in the Cleveland area for Marvel's studio. They're going to be shooting part of Marvel's Captain America, and that's going to be taking place in 2014. The reason why this kind of information is so great for you is because if you know that a film is coming to town, or maybe there's a film that's in town, typically you can easily find out who's doing the casting, even if it's just extras casting. And that kind of gets me back to the extras work. Simply go to the film commission in your area or in the area that you want to work in. Find out what projects are either currently happening or what projects are coming up soon, and you'll be able to find out about different kinds of work that's coming your way. Okay, here's another really helpful website. It's Student Film Auditions. And so what I did here, whoops, sorry about that. And that's, let's see. Well, basically what you're going to be doing, I can try clicking on it and let's just see what happens here. Let me take this up here, and here we go. So working on student films, once again, it's not going to be paid work. It's really, really rare that you're going to get a paid job from working on a student film, but what a great experience. Not only will you get an opportunity to build up your acting reel, which is what you want to do, maybe take a 30-second clip from it and you start putting together your acting reel. You also will get more experience working in front of a camera, and you're going to make a great connection with a screenwriter, with a director. And there are a lot of these student people who go on to have tremendous success, and you hear about it all the time, where there are actors who are working with student filmmakers. They love their work and they stayed in touch, and all of a sudden now these student filmmakers are shooting feature films, independent films, and they typically go back and hire the people they really like working with. So anyhow, it's a helpful website for you. Okay, so let's keep moving along. Promotional work. And that's another area where you might not have necessarily thought of. Now, typically, you might not have a whole lot of real in-depth drama going on if you are a spokesperson at a convention for a company. I've done a number of these. I don't do a lot, but I have done some over the years. It's a tough job, I can tell you. If you are a spokesperson for a corporation, a company, and you're in this huge convention center, and you might have a 3-minute, 4-minute, 5-minute piece that you are sharing with everybody attending, and you're talking about the company. Sometimes it's very technical. I've used an earpiece quite often in those kinds of situations. And if you're not familiar with an earpiece, now I'll give you the short version right now. I have a wireless earpiece, so it looks like a hearing aid, and I stick it in my ear. I have a little micro cassette tape recorder. I read everything. There's a loop that goes under your shirt, and basically what you do is you record the entire script onto the tape recorder, you hit the play button, and as you're listening back, you're actually doing your script. Because some of these, for me, it would be impossible to do 5 minutes of technical mumbo jumbo and do it, 8, 9 times a day, if not more. So anyhow, that might be helpful. But the other thing too is they can pay extremely well, and sometimes you could even just get hired to be giving out literature at somebody's booth, maybe talking with people, maybe sharing information about the company. You're not necessarily the spokesperson. So getting that kind of work could be really helpful to you. And there are a lot of companies that hire talent for this. So here are a bunch of different websites of different companies. There's even one in Canada, because once again, we do have people from around the world, so I like to share some information outside of the States as well. So let's go find one of the places, and let me see, was this it? No, that's not it. There, it's the student film, and here we go. That's what I was looking for. So this is a place, Big Orange, and as you can see here, they are looking for talent, and they will tell you exactly what they want, how to sign up. It's a good place. Let me show you a couple other places. This one is called Tripper Pointers Action, and let me just spread this thing out so I can find it for you very quickly. And let me go to the next place. What I want to show you here, and this is pretty cool, I mean, look, they need all different types. They need chefs, they need actors, even makeup artists, people who, costume characters. You never know what they're looking for. And so basically you sign up, you're on their list, and when projects come up, they give you a call. So it's just another way of thinking a little bit outside the box. And what's great is, let's say, you've got a bunch of auditions, or let's say you're doing, something with theater, and you know that this particular job ends at 3 o'clock during the day. It's something that will bring you in probably more money that you're going to be making doing theater, and allows you to do both. Okay, so those are some promotional companies, and like I said, you can check all of these out much later. There are also trade publications, and there are a number of trade publications. A lot of the information you're going to find is LA and New York based. If you are living in a smaller market, I mean, the information would be very interesting, but I don't know whether you're going to be able to learn that much about jobs happening in your particular area if you get a subscription to these. But I'll tell you one that would be really good for you is to go to Backstage. Even if you don't take out a full subscription to it, going on their website is great. If you're looking for auditions, and there is a fee, and you can check it out and see exactly what the fees are, but there's lots of really, really good acting and modeling information, more acting oriented, but there's some really good columns written by casting directors, actors. So this is a really good place to check out. Okay, and there's just a couple other things. There are website companies, and here are like 4 of the larger ones. I mean, there are other places too. For some of these places, agents use them, and they will ask their talent to pay to be on these websites, and it makes it easier for the agent to submit people. You'll have your headshots and your or commercial photos there. You can hear about auditions there. You can even upload auditions at some of these places and send them out. So these are places you can also check out. And once again, if you are working with an agent, you can always ask them and see if that's a requirement of the agent to be connected with one of these websites. So basically, and this is the little section that I wanted to go over with you. What you want to do is think of many different ways of trying to earn money by using your skills. I take on anything that I can get my hands on that's legal in the acting, commercial modeling business. Whether, I mean, personally, I wouldn't do the cruises, but that's just a personal thing. I get seasick, and I don't think that would be a whole lot of fun for me, but I know a lot of people who absolutely love doing cruises. But check out all these different parts of the industry. And the crazy thing is you never know where these things can take you. So the important thing is make sure you've got a great headshot, you've got a great resume, or even if it's not a resume that has a lot on it, but at least it's structured properly. Have a good cover letter if you are trying to do commercial modeling work. Have your really strong commercial shots together, and then you can start submitting yourself, to all different kinds of companies. Let your imagination go wild and do some, real investigation work, and you will be surprised as to how much work is really out there for you, even outside of what agents will be submitting you for. So it's there. It's a matter of spending the time, doing your research, being prepared so that when you are called in for some of these projects, you know what you're doing, and you can either be great at the go-see or be really good at your audition. So the very next segment that we're going to be going to, and I'm really excited, we have a great guest. His name is Adam Wahlberg, and we're going to be bringing him in, and I'm going to be interviewing him for this particular section. So, hey, let me ask Joel. Joel, is Adam ready to come join us?
Aaron, I do have Adam on the line, so just give me a second here. I'm going to switch a couple things around, and we're going to be bringing Adam on live next.
Fantastic. Okay, so in just a couple seconds, Adam will be here, and then we're going to keep going. And don't forget, you'll be getting a PDF that has all of these links. And also, if you have any questions at all, you can either email them in to Joel right now. At the very end of the day, that's when we're going to be setting aside time to answer any questions that you have. Hi, I'd like to welcome Adam Wahlberg to the workshop today. And Adam, let me first get started by asking you, I know you live in New York now, where exactly did you get started?
Well, I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware, just about 2.5 hours outside of the city. Started acting when I was 12 and did a ton of theater. I was always in, 2-3 projects at once at the expense of my schoolwork. And decided I wanted to go to college for it. So I went to college.
Where did you go?
I went to Syracuse University. They have an excellent school of drama. And that changed the entire way that I approach acting from a craft perspective. It really opened my eyes to just a different way to approach the work.
In what kind of ways did you find that there were changes?
Yeah, I remember being there as a freshman, and at Syracuse, there are 2 theaters in the building. There's the theater that we would use, and then there's also a LORT theater. There are League of Regional Theaters, so it's a professional equity theater in the building. And they were doing a production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And I'd never really, I'd never really been to much theater that didn't have music in it. You know what I mean? I was a musical theater kid growing up. And I still remember the actress's name. Her name was Kate Skinner. She blew my mind. It was a completely different way of approaching the craft. It was going on stage, and it was almost like a boxing match, getting exactly what you wanted from the other person and dealing with their tactics. And it was like a bob and weave kind of thing. It was fascinating.
No knockouts?
No well, maybe towards the end when that big reveal happens. But oh man, it was something else.
And I'm just kind of curious, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but I would be interested to know. While you were studying there, did you find that being at the university really helped train you to use the skills that you learned as an actor to actually get work?
No. Actually, that's one area of the curriculum at Syracuse, and I think this is kind of any program that you're going to go into, any BFA program that you're going to enter into in the States, it really lacks in business training, really lacks in it's great to focus on the craft because that's what we're all in it for. We're in it to do the work and to do really excellent work and to change lives. But you can't do any of that if you can't secure paid work once you get out of the sandbox.
Which is what this workshop is all about.
Exactly.
So you end up in New York, and I know like one of the things that we've talked about before is how important it is to find industry professionals, to try to meet as many people as possible. Yeah. Would you be able to tell us very specifically how do you go about doing that? Whether you're in New York or possibly in other areas, but maybe let's just stick with New York for right now.
Yeah, meeting industry professionals. Obviously, this business, just like any other business, to a certain extent, it's about who you know, simply because people work with, people that they like and that they know and they trust to show up and to deliver a great product. However, I don't think it's as important where you meet them as it is how you meet them. Obviously, we all know where you're able to find industry professionals. They live in talent offices, casting offices, regional theaters, classes, workshops, seminars, networking events. That's never going to change. That's where they, if you want to meet them, that's where you go.
Although, excuse me, just to kind of jump in there, certainly. I find that in today's time period, even though you might be able to easily access the names of agencies and their addresses and their phone numbers, to kind of go from that to physically meeting them is actually kind of difficult today, because unlike years ago where you could literally just knock on an agent's door and walk in and say, hi, I'd like to talk with you about representation, and show you a headshot or slide it under the door. That really has changed. So yeah, I'm really interested to hear, so how do you go about meeting some of these people?
Yeah, I think that, you talked about, briefly just touched on mailings. I'm a big proponent of mailings, but because nowadays, the market is so saturated. 30 years ago, you're right. You could go knock on a door, and it would be a 30-70 chance that they would go, okay, come on in, let's sit down and talk. Nowadays, that just doesn't happen because there are so many people that are pursuing a career in the performing arts, and the way that you go about getting their attention is you separate yourself from the pack, and there are little things that you can do to differentiate yourself and really stand out.
Like how?
For instance, if you're doing a mailing, one of the things that you can do to stand out is go get yourself some envelopes that have a little window in them, and that way when you're delivering and you should always hand deliver, by the way, you're not mailing them off, you should always hand deliver your mailings if you're in the area, of course. Obviously if you live somewhere else, that's not possible. But what a difference it makes when you're sliding an envelope across a desk, to an assistant or an intern, and there's your face right in the window. Now, how many other actors out there are doing that?
So just to make sure everybody knows exactly what that means, there are certain envelopes that people can purchase instead of just sending out a brown manila envelope or a white envelope. There are some envelopes out there that have a clear front to them so that your headshot is actually seen when you drop it off.
Absolutely. And it might just be your chin or like an eyeball or something, but that's better than nothing. You know what I mean? That catches the eye. Something else, when you're putting the mailing together and you're packaging it, you should always have a cover letter. Do you cover letters in some of your curriculum, Aaron?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. As a matter of fact, in my book, I've got a page that is a cover letter that people can borrow and kind of use it word for word if they like. But actually, I'd be curious to hear what specific things that you would like to have people use in a cover letter to make it effective.
Yeah, I mean, there's really only 3 sentences that I use in a cover letter. And before I actually get into the content of the cover letter, I think one of the most important things is people will construct a cover letter that is 8.5 by 11, and they'll paperclip it to the front of their headshot. I think that's a mistake. I think what you want to do is write your cover letter and then put several of them on a page. Actually, what I do is I put 2 of them on a page, long ways, and then you cut it in half. And then what you do is you want to paperclip it to one side of the headshot. So when they open it up, and mind you, when they're opening it up, you've got 5 to 10 seconds, and that's it. You know what I mean? And then they're on to the next. And that's the way it has to be because they're busy. You're busy. I'm busy. It's just it's nothing personal. It's just the way that the business works. So when you open it up, what you're seeing is half of your headshot, and then the cover letter. And that's more eye-grabbing than just seeing a large page with words on it.
Okay. And as far as the 3 sentences, what kind of things do you like to say?
Yeah. The first one is your branding statement, which we can get into a little later. Branding is huge with me. You need to know exactly what you're selling and to whom. The other thing you want to tell them is where you're going, what you're doing. So, for instance, I'm in the process of setting up agent interviews. I've heard a lot about your office, and I'd love to come, talk with you. The third sentence you want to do is talking about some way that you are connected to them. Even if it's as simple as something that they were just working on. Even if you haven't met them, you can say congratulations on the 2nd season of Boardwalk Empire.
Now you're talking about a casting director, or are you talking about an agent at this point?
Casting directors.
Casting directors, okay.
Yeah, but you can do the same thing with agents. You know what I mean? Especially if you've met them. We met last March at this industry mixer. Let me tell you what I've been up to since then.
And how would you recommend people finding out what, let's say, a casting director has been working on?
The trade papers, Variety, Backstage. I mean, there's all kinds of publications out there. What I do, which is a really great tip, is I follow all these trade papers on Twitter. So you get little snippets of who's working on what project throughout your day.
That's fantastic. And I assume that people could also go to IMDb, the website, imdb.com, which is Internet Movie Database. And like, for instance, with Boardwalk Empire, if you just type in the name of the show, it will also mention who was casting and who were some of the actors who were on it. And then you could also do some extra follow-up to find out who the agents are for some of the actors. In which case, if you're going to be trying to get representation with one of those agents, you've got something to talk about.
Absolutely, and that's an excellent tip. I think that, in general, I think what we're all trying to get across here is that the traditional channels of success are really, they're not really, I don't want to say they're not open, but more often, actors find their way into the industry by kind of taking, not A to B, but A to V to H to B. You know what I mean? It's a dance.
Yeah, and I mean, essentially, what we do is we're salespeople, and we have to, besides needing to have the talent to perform when called upon, but we also have to learn how to market ourselves and how to get people to notice who we are and what we can offer them. Yes. Otherwise, we're going to be lost. And there are tons of unbelievably talented actors who I'm sure I certainly know, who really don't work very much because nobody knows that they're around.
Right. You said the magic word there, Aaron, which is marketing, which is huge for actors. Huge for, it's just, I think that establishing what your brand is, and we can get into that. And then,
well, why don't we talk about that right now? Because I think it's such an important part of marketing yourself and working as an actor, that just to make sure that we don't gloss over it or forget about it later. Yeah. Why don't you talk about what exactly do you mean by branding oneself?
Yeah. So I think that every actor, what you're essentially selling is you're selling yourself, your face, your voice, and your essence. And so what you want to do in trying to establish that brand is to take your essence and create all of your marketing materials around that. So everything from your headshot to your resume to your demo reel to your website to all the material that you pick for auditions is related back to that brand, which is your essence.
Okay, so like for instance, I mean, people see your face right now. How would you describe the way that you brand yourself?
Yeah. One of the ways I do it is I relate it to people who are already known. So I can't tell you how many times a year this happens, but I'm always compared to a young David Hyde Pierce because of the way that I talk and the way that I move. And so that's something that goes into almost every cover letter that I write because casting directors go, oh, okay, that's the kind of niche that he fits into. You know
And
what I mean?
how do you actually state that in a cover letter?
I say, actually, the most times I start off with it. So it's, hello, so-and-so, whatever the name is. Just think of me as a young David Hyde Pierce, yada, yada, yada. And that's punchy, you know what I mean? It has active language, and it's not, hello, my name is, please, sir. It's more conversational, and it catches them right away.
Now, in your cover letter, something that I do is I always have a headshot on my cover letter, so that way if somebody is only looking at the cover letter and they're not seeing my actual 8x10, that way they can still see my face as they're reading this letter and they make the connection. I don't know if that's something that you do, but I find that to be very helpful, whether I'm sending something into an agency or a casting director or a producer. So that way, that branding, which is what my headshot is made up of, it's always connected with my words as well. But it's really interesting. I like that idea of branding stuff. And I know it's funny because there are plenty of actors who say, well, I don't want to be branded. I don't want to be pigeonholed. I can do anything. If I tell people I'm in a certain kind of category, that's the only thing they're going to think of me as. But the way that I view it is, I think that's great if you are branded and you are typecast. Look, if that kind of typecasting is getting you work, then that's phenomenal, and that's what you want to do. And once you reach a certain level in the industry and you've got the power to be able to do this, then you can start accepting jobs that are very against your type. But, for most of us, we're always thought of in a certain way, and so instead of fighting it and being angry with it and trying to, to hide it, embrace it, and use that as your strength.
Absolutely.
So was there anything else that you wanted to say about the branding? Like, I assume you would do that with a postcard as well?
Yeah, I mean, I have kind of a regimen that I follow with mailings. If I'm in a mailing situation, which is about 2 months, that kind of time frame, the first one I'll do is your traditional package, which is, consists of your headshot and resume, a cover letter, maybe a DVD for your demo reel, if you have one. And then about 2 weeks later, I'll follow up with a postcard. And my experience is casting directors love postcards. And they're eye-catching because there's no envelope involved. You just send it off in the mail, and your face is all over it. You know what I mean?
And what do you say? I'm curious. What do you say in the postcard?
Yeah. Well, once again, it comes back to if you've ever had any kind of interaction with that person, with that casting director, or with that agent. And if you haven't, it's just a question of getting creative. You know what I mean? You can congratulate them on a project that they were just involved in, or you can even address it to someone else in the office that you might know or have encountered.
Now, would you ever mention anything about? I hope you got a chance to take a look at the headshot that I sent you a couple months ago, or do you not even reference that?
No, I don't. I usually don't reference it. I think that the more conversational and casual, friendly that you can be, the rest of it is kind of implied. You know what I mean? They know if you're sending a a package and then a postcard, and then a thank you card, which we'll talk about in a minute. They know that you are actively searching for work, and consequently they take you more seriously.
Okay, and then you said, so every couple of months you'll do a mailing,
Mm-hmm.
and then 2 weeks after that you'll send out a postcard.
Yep.
And then what happens after that?
After that, I wait about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then I'll do a thank you card.
And that's a postcard?
No, actually, that is a. I mean, if you go out to your local Walgreens or Duane Reade, and you get a package of thank you cards, something that you like with a pattern on the front, with envelopes, in the package, and you write a handwritten thank you note. And here's the thing about thank you notes: casting directors, agents, producers, ad execs, all day, all they hear is I want, I need this, I need that. So when an actor takes time to drop a thank you note in the mail and doesn't want anything, they just want to say thank you for that feedback you gave me last month, or thank you for anything, make it up.
Well, but what happens if let's say you're brand new, you sent in a headshot with a cover letter, and they didn't respond to you. You followed up, and you sent them a postcard,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't hear anything from them. In the thank you note, if you've never had any contact with that person, would you still do the thank you card?
Yeah, absolutely. You can thank them for, you can just assume that they looked at your material. Thank you for looking at my material. Much appreciated.
Great.
You can always find something to say. So much of this industry is just starting a conversation, and you have to know what to say to start a conversation, and that starts being creative.
Now, have you ever done any follow-up phone calls with any of these people that you've perhaps never met, never heard back from?
No, I think that if you're doing phone calls, it comes off as a little try hard. It smells of
desperation.
Well, not desperation, but once again, I want. You know what I mean? And you want to stay away from I want and keep the tone casual and light, and as if you're talking to someone who is an equal. You're a casting director. You have clients. I'm an actor. I have, a product that I sell. The more you can keep it just kind of businessy, and it works a lot better. But no,
I can tell you. Excuse me. I was just going to say another reason for not making a follow-up phone call is that typically agents will be really angry if you do that, and the same with casting directors. I mean, these people, they're working incredibly hard. They're putting in really long hours, and if a good portion of their day was simply answering phone calls from actors saying, "Hey, did you get my headshot? Did you get my postcard?"
That's all they would do.
Yeah, that's what they would do all day, and they wouldn't be able to get their work done. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's not a very positive way to do it. Something else that I've done, I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are about this. I've suggested sometimes for people, when they send a headshot and a cover letter and a resume, let's say to an agent, and they didn't hear back, so they're not 100% sure. Did they really get it? Did they look at it? So something that I've suggested, if you want, you could even put together a little postcard that is being returned to you. It's pre-stamped, and basically it says, yes, I've received your information. I'll be getting back in touch with you. Yes, I've received your information. Please give me a call. Yes, I've received your information. We're not interested at this time. Then they could just simply check things off. It's already pre-stamped, whether it's with a postcard or even just a letter, a regular letter that has a self-addressed stamped envelope on it. And at least that way, okay, they got it, they're not interested. Because for me, that's just knowing whether it's positive or negative news, that makes it a lot easier, and then you're not wondering, well, did they really get it? Because they didn't respond to me.
I think that's an excellent idea. I think that's the mark of a true professional. If I've never represented talent or been a casting director, but if I were to get something like that in the mail, I would say, just based on that little postcard alone, the yes, no, maybe, I would go, this guy is worth taking a second look.
Yeah, and also it's showing you don't sound desperate there. It's kind of like, okay, so let me know, because if you're not interested, that's fine, and I'm just going to move on to somebody else.
Yeah.
And yeah, so and I know people who have also done that, and they've gotten some good responses from that. But as far as well, I'm sorry, was there anything else specifically about the mailing process that you wanted to discuss before I moved on to something else?
Not the mailing process, but I did want to double back and just add one little thing on to the branding and the marketing.
Okay.
Which is, I think that a lot of actors fall into a trap where they're sending mixed messages. You have several points of contact with industry professionals. You've got the initial mailing, everything we just talked about, the mailing, the postcard, the thank you card, when you walk into the room, when you open your mouth, when you slate, when you start your material, and all of those choices have to be congruent according to your brand. So many times an actor walks into a room and their voice is different from their look, is different from their slate, is different from the material they've chosen, or the choices that they're making in a cold reading. And
actually, I just wanted to interrupt for 1 second. When you were talking about slating, would you just explain specifically what you mean by slating?
Yes, I'm sorry. When you walk into a room, specifically for a commercial audition or anything that's on camera, the audition is not happening right then and there. Instead, what's happening is they're going to film you, doing the reading, and the first thing that you want to do before you start the reading is what's called a slate, and the slate is just a friendly, hello, my name is Adam Wahlberg, and there's a couple things about a slate that you have to be very careful about. The first thing is you want to, once again, differentiate yourself. So maybe not hello, my name is, but good morning, my name is. And it doesn't matter, even if they're watching in the evening, it doesn't matter, because they'll hear good morning as opposed to hello, and immediately they're looking. Immediately they're paying more attention. The other thing is it should be friendly. You should be smiling. It should be warm. You should be reaching right out, from the camera and talking directly to the person who's viewing. And the third thing is you want to pause between your first and last name and make it very clear. A lot of times you'll see actors who will go, hello, my name is Adam Wahlberg. and that's not effective, because then they'll go, who? I don't know who I'm looking at. And all it takes is a simple fast forward, and they're on to the next actor.
And for the first couple of lines, they're still trying to figure out what your last name is, and they've really lost your audition.
Your work.
Yeah, yep. They're distracted. Yeah, that's really important. And so basically, you're saying that it's crucial that when you go in there, that you represent the image that is on your headshot and the image that you've branded yourself with, so it's consistent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's not to say, if the gods smile upon you and you enjoy success as an actor, that's not to say that you can't break out of that mold a little later once people know who you are and you're steeped in the industry. You can kind of step out of the box.
Well, and I know we're kind of like jumping around a little bit, but it's like the idea came up, so I just wanted to throw it at you.
Yeah.
I know that there are very different opinions about the slate, and so I know this has really nothing to do with marketing, but I think it's really helpful for people to hear, so I'm going to mention it. There are some people in the industry who will say, look, when you go in there and slate in the way of who you are, the way that your headshot is portraying you as, even if the character that you're reading for is very different, which does happen sometimes. And then you make that transition from the slate to the character.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard other people say, look, when you walk in there, slate is the character. They want to see that character. They want to believe that that's who you are, because it will make it easier for them to hire you that way. And so there are two really very opposing ideas as to how to go into a slate. I can tell you the way that I do it, and I like the idea of making the transition. I want people to see that I'm an actor. I want people to see who this nice, friendly, warm, approachable guy is, and then in that split second, do the transformation, and if I have to, become, a very, very different kind of person, I'll show that as opposed to going in and slating as the character. Just out of curiosity, how do you generally do it?
I agree with you, Aaron. I think that if when you walk into a room, the first thing that a casting director is looking at is they're not looking at your talent. They're not looking, they assume that if you are there, that you have talent already. Somebody has seen talent in you, and they're sending you on this audition or go see. So what they're looking for is they're looking for your type, what you look like. That's kind of the first thing that they look for. And they're looking for personality. And they want to see your personality, not necessarily the personality of the character first. You know what I mean? Obviously, if you're doing a cold reading and you've prepared something, you slip into that character. But I think that I agree with you, Aaron. I think that transition between this warm, friendly, likable actor into whatever character you're portraying shows versatility. It shows that you are able to work, on a set. I just think that that's the way to go. I think that especially if you have a gruff character, somebody who's not going to be all that nice, it would be a mistake to go in there and go, "Hi, my name is Adam Wahlberg."
And it also let people know that you'll be able to take direction and make changes.
Yes.
As opposed to looking at as the character, because they're not really sure what happens if we have to make a change here. This is the guy. I'm not so sure that he has the skills to do that, but when you do make that transition. Okay, great. Hey, yeah. So I know you had also talked about the importance of taking classes. Mm-hmm. And it seems like there are a variety of ways of utilizing a class to help you get work, besides the fact that it's just going to make you a better actor if it's a good class. But what are some of the other benefits that you found with studying?
Well, first of all, of course, the main benefit is refining your technique as an actor. But then there are all these little things that you don't get in other places because they're not going to teach you that stuff when you go on an audition. So, for instance, we just talked about slating. You know what I mean? Most actors, when they walk into a room and they don't have any real training or experience, they don't know what a slate is and they don't know how to do it. Which is why this course is so excellent, because you're getting this information without having to dump a bunch of money into a class. So there's those little things that really add up. The other thing is, every acting teacher that I have ever encountered doubles as something else in the industry. They're not just an acting teacher; they are an actor, or they represent talent, or they're married to the person who represents talent. You know what I mean? This industry is so small, so.
Or they have contacts with people in the industry, or they're casting directors. Yeah, absolutely.
They can put you in touch with the right people. So if you go into that class and you really set yourself apart by working harder than everybody else in the room, by taking adjustments, by really listening and really connecting, guaranteed they will send you out on auditions.
And the other thing too that just kind of came to mind as you were talking about it, it's the other students, it's the other actors. Yeah. And you're sitting around working with other people, and they will talk and they'll tell you about their agent or people they've heard about or projects that are coming up in the future. And so, it just seems like there are so many other benefits by surrounding yourself, in that kind of situation, that in addition to, the skills that you're going to learn as an actor.
Absolutely.
And the other thing too is, just as far as marketing and helping yourself get work, I know you really talk a lot about the importance of having a website or having some kind of website presence for actors. Now, you had mentioned reels, so just to make sure everybody knows what that means, would you explain what's an acting reel?
Yeah. So there are two different kinds of reel. There's a video reel and there's an audio reel. So we'll talk about video reel first. Video reel, or a demo reel, is an aggregation of your on-camera work. It's just 2 to 3 minutes, and it's your best performances, right? And if you really want to get fancy, a lot of actors have a comedic reel and a dramatic reel. And one of the things that I would say about having an effective reel is, of course, the performances need to be sterling. But the other thing is, the editing. So if you are thinking about putting a demo reel together and you have some film experience, please get yourself an editor who is going to do an excellent job. Because the thing about editing is if it's bad, then it's distracting and it takes away from viewing your work. And if it's good, it's seamless. It goes completely unnoticed, and they're just focusing on you.
And how long, let's say, so you're talking about a 2 to 3 minute video. How long would you recommend each piece be in that 2 to 3 minute video?
There's going to be some variance, of course, just because of the different projects that you were involved in and how long those scenes are, or how much of that scene you want to use. One thing I would say is change it up. So don't make it 30 seconds of one clip and then 30 seconds of another. Do 10 seconds. Do like a one-liner, and then maybe do 45 seconds. And in that way, you are making sure that you keep their attention. They're not seeing one scene after the next in this kind of proscribed fashion. You're changing it up.
And for people that haven't done any TV commercials, they haven't done any other kind of film work or television work, would it be okay for them to, shoot a monologue or, or create something on their own just to have a reel, or would you recommend that they actually wait until they have something professionally done?
I would wait until you have something that is like semi-professional. It doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be like Hollywood, you know what I mean? But it should look as sharp as you can possibly get it. So, shooting yourself doing monologues, I wouldn't recommend it. Student films are a great way. Even if you go on a Craigslist and you're doing a student film, because a lot of times these students, they have access to excellent equipment. The other thing you can do is write your own stuff. I've gone on a kick lately on the blog about creating your own work. So you're not just the actor, you're the writer, you're the producer, you're the DP. Of course, that's all contingent upon whether or not you have the right equipment, or if you have a friend who has the right equipment and things like that.
And also that you're a skilled writer too.
Yeah, and of course that takes work and it takes imagination. But I would say, I would recommend that you wait.
Okay, so on an actor's website, let's say you don't have a demo reel, you don't have an audio reel, which would have been your work from radio commercials or narrations, voiceover work, things like that. Let's say you've got a headshot, and maybe you even have some strong commercial photos, so you're trying to get commercial modeling work. What exactly do you do with that website? How's that going to be helpful to you?
Yeah, the website is your home base on the internet. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of outposts that you're going to have: social media, Facebook, Twitter, Actors Access, all those other sites where you can put your photos up and your resume. But your website serves as your home base on the internet. It's going to have everything that they could possibly need to know about you in order to book you. Sections include just a home page, and on your home page you should probably put the news. So it's kind of almost like a blog format. This week I'm doing this industrial. Photos, and photos can be broken up into several sections: headshots, performance stills, print work, like you said, Aaron. Video. Video, of course, would include your demo reel or reels, but not necessarily exclusively the reels. It could be work that you've done that you have access to. Embedding video files in websites is a snap these days. It's a lot easier than it used to be. And I think that the more video that you have up there, the better it is for you. Audio reels, all of your voiceover work, if you have voiceover work, narration, character voices, movie trailers, commercial spots, whatever. And then of course the contact form. Now, here's the thing. All acting websites, all actors' websites have these sections, right? They don't tend to vary a lot from actor to actor. But there's one thing that's missing from a lot of actors' websites, and it's called a CTA, a call to action. Okay, let's imagine that a casting director it comes to your website. They have 30 seconds to spare. have a look at your photos and they like what they see. What's the next step? Where's your contact info? I think that having a call to action is like a big button on the page. It has your phone number on it, your email address, a link to a contact form, a download button so that they can download your demo reel right to their desktop, right? Then that way, every time that they open up their laptop, there's your demo reel staring them in the face. I love that. Call to action.
That's a great idea. And just for those people who are a little bit uncomfortable with giving out their personal phone number, whether it's your personal cell phone number or home number, what some people do is they use a free phone number from GoogleVoice.com, and basically you just put in your zip code. You can choose one of the phone numbers that are available, and then every time somebody calls that number, you can have it forwarded to whatever phone you want it forwarded to, whether it's your cell phone or your home phone, and that way you can give out a phone number without it being your personal number for the world to see, just in case you just don't know who's going to be visiting the site. But no, those are great ideas of making sure that people can easily reach you, once they've seen your work. And I assume too that, whether it's on your resume, whether it's on your postcards or your cover letter, certainly you're going to have your website address, so that way people can follow up if they want to get more information from you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just going back to that Google Voice thing, the other advantage of having a Google Voice number is that if you don't want to answer right then, excuse me, they'll leave a voicemail, and the voicemail gets transcribed into an email that gets sent directly to you. So you're always going to know, whether it's a casting director or some, weirdo out in cyberspace trying to get in touch with you. So. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of the Google Voice number. I think that's
yeah, it's incredible service. Hey, and speaking of some of the other companies, some of the other websites that some agents use and also a lot of actors use individually. You mentioned Actors Access. There's Network Casting. There's 800 Casting. Take a look at my little sheet here to see. I know there's New York Casting, and there probably actually are there some others that I'm just forgetting off the top of my head right now.
Casting Networks is a big one that you want to hit.
Right. And that's primarily, I assume, for like New York, and then there's an LA Networks,
yeah.
Which is
yeah, there's a New York. There's I think it's called LA Networks.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think those are the big ones.
And so, is that something that aside? I know there are some agents that don't have their own website. So they want their actors or models to sign up to be on those sites, because that's how they submit people and that's how they get information to other industry professionals, and people use them individually. Is that something that you recommend actors be a part of? Some of those other websites?
Yeah, I know a lot of agents these days are using a software service called Agency Pro, and the whole idea is you put your the agent gives you some kind of access code, and then you go and put up a profile page there. Mm-hmm. I would recommend that. I think that here's the thing about it. Meeting with agents is, if you're meeting with an agent and they ask you for any money up front, that's usually a red flag that you probably should not be working with them for a few reasons. But if it's for Agency Pro or some kind of software and they want $25 or whatever, just throw it in. You know what I mean? It's not as if they're asking you for $2,000 to go on some weekend retreat. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, I would recommend that.
Yeah, I guess the thing that's helpful is that you can try it out. If you find that it's not working for you for a variety of reasons, you're not tied into a tremendous amount of money, and then you can always look elsewhere. But yeah, it does seem like, because I know for some of those sites, you can actually upload your demo reel or voiceover reel. For some of them, there's an additional fee. For some of them, there's no additional charge. But especially if you have an agent that wants to represent you, and that's how they're marketing their talent, it seems like it's a good business investment. And like I said, you're not tied into long-term deals there. Typically, it's a year. And if it
Mhm.
doesn't work out, then then you can move on.
Yeah.
Now, something else I just wanted to ask. So for people who aren't living in a major market, and actually, I mean, this is something I'm going to be talking about with another guest. Um, but would you recommend people using these types of websites if their agents aren't asking you to, but just as a way of trying to get work in smaller markets, or do you find that a lot of these bigger websites really are pretty much geared to the major markets, LA, Chicago, New York, maybe Atlanta and Miami?
Yeah, I think that if you live in a place where there's not a whole lot of opportunity, I mean, maybe you don't live near or in a metropolitan area, some of the ones you just mentioned, Aaron. Um, the thing about it is, you can use these websites to root out, opportunities to act, but more often than not, you're going to be traveling for auditions, interviews, you know, all that kind of stuff because um, that it just doesn't happen where people, shoot films out in the boondocks, or shoot commercials or whatever project you might be working on. So it's your choice of where in the states you want to live. Specifically talking about America, um, but realize that if you live in a place where there isn't a whole lot of opportunity, that you're going to be traveling quite a bit.
Well, one of the things that I'm going to be talking about a little bit later is that actually, it's true. If you want to be on a television series or you want to be working on feature films, then not to say that you can't live in a secondary market and still get some of the. Typically, it's going to be the smaller roles, like day player roles, or maybe even like a week contract on these projects. But most of those major parts have already been cast, even if they're shooting in a smaller area, and they've been cast out of New York or LA, for the most part. Although there really are, and like I said, I'm going to be talking about this in a little bit, of ways of trying to find some of the local work that is coming your way, even if you are living in a smaller market. It's not going to be the stuff that's going to make you famous, but you would be surprised as to how many different types of jobs that might be available to you, even if you aren't in a position to pick up and move, to a major market.
Oh, I
So
agree.
yeah, so basically, it sounds like then the key things, just to kind of try to summarize, and we're going to have all this in a slide so people can see it very clearly. It's really important. You've got to have the right materials. You've got to start off at least with a very strong headshot. You want to be able to find contacts in the industry. You want to learn how to put together, a good cover letter, get yourself introduced, to the people in the industry who can actually get you work, who can actually hire you for projects. And, certainly all along the way, you want to really make sure that you've been studying, that you have the skills, so that once you've made the contacts with people and they're giving you the opportunity to audition or even potentially hire you for a job, that you've got the skills to actually perform and, give the people what they want so that they will ask you back again and, to continue working for them.
Work begets work, as they say.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree with you more with that. Hey, Adam, I just wanted to thank you so much again for just sharing a lot of your incredible information with us. For people who want to learn more from Adam, I've got his website. You'll see it on the slide. At the bottom of the screen, but it's Ace Your Audition, and you'll see the exact spelling of it on the slide. You can also contact Adam if you have any personal questions for him. It's adam@aceyouraudition.com. And really, just wanted to thank you so much again for this information. It was absolutely great. And also, thanks for hanging out for the Q&A, which will be coming up a little bit later. Really appreciate it.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you. Well, that was great. Our next guest, her name is Shanna Grace, and she's great. She's great. I'm really excited to interview her. I know you're going to really enjoy listening to her. Joel, do you have Shanna online ready for us?
Yeah, we do, Aaron. We've got Shanna ready. She's queued up. Just give me a second here to switch over to her camera, and we're ready to go.
Cool. Hi, I am so excited to have Shanna Grace here.
Hello.
Shanna, you can hear me okay?
Yes, all good.
Cool. Well, let me first just let everybody know we met 5 years ago. I was giving a talk at an event in New York, and it is just unbelievable. Well, maybe I shouldn't say unbelievable. I think it's just incredible how much you have done in the past 5 years. So let me just introduce you a little bit. I mean, if for anybody who would like to see more about your work, they can simply go to shannagrace.com. That is the correct website address, right?
Yes, yep, that's all good.
Okay, good. And actually, we're going to have it listed at the bottom as well, so people will get a chance to see it later. But it shows your resume, it shows your reels, it shows just a lot of things that you have done. But essentially, what Shanna has done, which is really neat, is she lives in Denver, which is not one of the major markets in the United States, and she has had an opportunity to not only travel to LA for work, but she's also been able to take a lot of the information that she has learned and bring it back home, and has had tremendous success. I've got to ask you, we were talking earlier about Hollywood Complex, which is, it sounds like an incredible documentary that you were cast in, that was shot in both LA, and also they came to your home in Denver to shoot you there as well. You had mentioned that this was shown on Showtime, as well as seen by over 700,000 people in the UK, which is, I mean, that's just really amazing. Would you let people know, like, what was this documentary about, and how did you happen to get cast in it?
Where I stayed during pilot season in California, which was 3 months long, was a hotel really centered around child actors, and they brought in, different acting coaches, different casting directors, and things like that into the hotel. So we would be able to talk with them and interview with them and audition for them. And so that's where the film crew came, because they knew that it was a big central for child actors. And so they interviewed the child actors at the hotel to try and figure out which ones they wanted to use for their movie, because they wanted to really show the world of acting and what it really is like, because it's really a different world, and it's really tough to understand. So they really wanted to get kind of down behind the scenes so they could really show people what it's actually like as a child's actor. And so that's where I got with them, and they did filming through the entire process of auditioning and jobs and things like that. And then at the end, when they showed it, they previewed it in the Los Angeles area, and the feedback that they got back was that they kind of wanted to see more of me. And so they came back to Colorado and showed me kind of at home with my horses, and still maintaining my acting here and the other aspects of what it's like here in acting. And so it was just a really, really awesome project. And recently I got contacted to do an interview for the Australian version of 17 magazine. So that was really, really cool to be able to do that as well.
That's incredible. Now, when you were talking about pilot season, and I know things have changed a little bit, but when you're talking about pilot season, what 3 months are you referring to?
Pilot season is normally at the very beginning of the year. So January, February, March.
Yeah, and what's so crazy right now is just how it always used to be, the set 3 months, and now the pilot season has really changed. And even though that's still the primary time, but they're shooting pilots, through many different months throughout the year now as well. But one of the things that's really that I think is so neat is that here you are, you're a high school student, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so the thing that you did, which I thought was kind of funny, you did things in some ways almost like you kind of did them backwards.
Yeah.
It's you started off in Denver, and you go to an event in New York, and like I said, that's where we met, and then you decide that you wanted to go out to LA And so you go to LA and you're taking lots of classes, you're meeting with people, you find an agent, and then you go back home and you
Hmm.
start working locally.
Hmm.
And like I had mentioned earlier on, I think I saw on your resume, I think it's like 10 or 11 films that you've done. And I know a number of them were shot in the Denver area. So one of the things that I would love to have you talk about is how do you go about finding films or any kind of projects on a local level?
It helps a lot. I created a Facebook specifically for my acting, and that way you can friend people that are producers here locally or casting directors. Like I'm friends with a casting company, and different directors and producers post on the casting company's page different auditions that they're having around town, and if you fit what they're looking for, then you can go and audition. And also having postcards has helped a lot because at events near the town, there's Emerging Filmmakers Project, and they show several shorts that have been done here locally, and it's just kind of local work at this theater that is just shown so people can see it, and that's a good place to market as well because different producers and directors around town that have created these films are there, and you can market yourself as well. And I'd say that those are the two main ones here locally, and just, getting to know the people around town and auditioning. And I've had a couple referrals. This summer I was in a horror movie, and then they referred me to a different director who's doing something else because it was good working with them. So,
So, so, so basically, so you heard about um, there are places where filmmakers get together, show their work, and you made
mhm,
sure that you went there, and you went there with
yes,
postcards so that you could
yep,
actually hand them out to different people.
yes.
That's a great idea, and also I like the idea too of the way you were talking about creating a Facebook page that is specifically geared for acting. You're not just sending out information about, what time you brushed your teeth this morning, but it's
Exactly.
really it's really geared for your business. Now, you
Mhm.
also created a website too, right?
Yes, yeah. My thanks to my brother, he helps me a lot. He's Mr. Tech, so he helps me make a website. But there's a lot of different templates out there, and they're super easy to use. And just get a website up, and I put my resume on it, and my reel, and headshots, and I update it frequently with new things that I'm working on. And that way, it's a really easy professional thing to give to people, so they can look at what I've been working on and my reel and scenes that I've had from some of my projects and my resume. So it's a really professional way to market yourself, and that's what I have on my postcards is my headshot and my website.
And is there any other information on there besides, contact information and your headshot and website?
I have an acting email as well, so if they want to contact me directly, then I have that on there. And then also, if I'm sending them out to California, it's really good just to keep your face out there, sending emails to your agent, or if you just audition for a casting company or for a series or something, send them a quick postcard saying thank you for the audition, or send the different people that you've made contacts with, send them an update on what you've been working on, and just kind of keep in front of people.
And also on your website, because you've also done some print work. And I know you would mention to me that you're on, is it a couple book covers?
Yes, I am. I'm on a Disney book cover, which has been awesome. And then I'm on another book cover called Dueled. And now I just got contacted right before, and they want to use me for her second book. So I'm
Wow,
excited for that.
that's incredible. So you would have that kind of information on your website as well,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, yep. And it's really cool the way that works. The photographer is here in Colorado, but the editor is in New York. And so they find talent in Colorado to be able to use for their book covers, and the photographer shoots everything here. His studio's here. He hires hair and makeup here, and they shoot it all here locally, and then they send it over to New York. My last book cover, they took test shots and were able to shoot. The editor was able to tell them what she wanted different, what she wanted changed on the photo from New York, and then we were able to get exactly what she wanted for the book cover here in Denver and send it over.
That's incredible. Now, was that something that, because I know you have an agent in Denver, did
Mhm.
you book that through your agent or is that something you did on your own?
Yes, that is something that I got through my agency. But then I contacted the author of the books, just kind of saying thank you for the opportunity. I'm really excited to read the books, and just following up with them. And that's how I got to know the author of the second book, who wants to use me again. So.
Wow. Now, is that something that you would also put on your Facebook page?
Yes, once the cover is done and I get the okay to be able to put it on something because the image is theirs, I have to get approval to use it. But then once I do, yes, I show everybody and put it on Facebook, put it on my website, let people know about it.
And I was just wondering, I know you had mentioned that you were able to find some producers and casting directors and things like that. How exactly do you go about, or maybe you can suggest for other people in different markets, how do you actually go out and find some of these people on a local level?
My acting teacher actually he knows a lot of people in town. He's produced several films, and so through him, he refers me to people, and just going on auditions, you get referrals, and the more you get out there, the more you audition for, the more local film events that you go to, the more you market yourself, and then, word starts getting around, and your business just starts growing. And then the connection of people starts growing as well. So you just have to make sure you keep in contact with everybody. But it's helped a lot because he's a local producer. So not only do we do acting and stuff in his class, we also record ourselves, and he knows how to, do the different camera stuff. And so we're actually able to shoot the scenes that we're working on, and that way we are able to, show them around, and he refers you, and you improve a lot that way.
Yeah, and I think you touched on a really important part. I mean, you're talking about taking classes. I know you studied in LA with a variety of different people, and you're studying, locally also. And, I think that really hits home in the fact that there's so much that can happen when you are studying. For people who are, taking this particular workshop, it's giving them an opportunity to learn more about the business, make contacts with people. And that's what happens when, you're really putting yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
For people who think that they're just going to be discovered by walking down the street because they've been told that they have a good look, that's kind of fantasy world. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the people who have real success and people, who are really doing a lot in the industry, these are people who work very hard. I mean, they're taking classes, they're studying with people, they're doing on-camera work so they can get better at auditions. And also, it will help you tremendously when you're on the set. But, in some ways, just as important, it's the contacts that you're
Mm-hmm.
going to make when you put yourself in touch with really good people in the industry.
Exactly, and there are opportunities out there. I mean, there's so many workshops, like your workshops are very beneficial, or there's casting director workshops, or there's director workshops, and just getting in front of the people, and, making connections and making contacts, and just getting yourself out there. And on Facebook, just, friending the directors around town, and setting your status as an update. Oh, we're shooting my book cover in a couple weeks, and just updates. I just got cast in a movie, and just keeping updated, putting on scenes, putting on different pictures of print or commercial work that you've been doing, and it just shows the people around town what you're up to, and that way your marketing grows as well.
And one thing, I know this is a little bit off the topic, but I think it's still really helpful for people to know about. So here you are, you're a full-time student.
Hmm.
How do you go about dealing with auditions? How do you deal with, booking jobs? Let's just say even on a local level. How does that work for you?
A lot of it is time management. I make sure, school, I need to get good grades and everything, but the people around town understand that, you're in school, and so they're as flexible as they can be with when they, make dates for things, and, ask what dates work for you, and understand when you're free, and after school always works. And so they're really respectful of the fact that you have school, and really flexible with that. I get off, this year I made sure to get eighth period off, so I get off at 2 o'clock, so earlier. So that way I do have all afternoon to be able to do my extracurricular stuff and get my homework done and be able to do my acting as well.
And so for time management, are there any lessons that you can share with other students who might not know specifically, how do you go about arranging, your time so that you can do both and also be very successful both in school and, for acting and modeling?
Yes, it's just a lot of it, the days that at school that you spend, talking around, socializing with your friends, and just messing around, you can be, getting your homework done because you know that you have your movie shoot after school, and just getting stuff done. And if you have a project at the end of the week, maybe you work on it at the beginning of the week when you're free, knowing that you have work to do at the end of the week, and just planning ahead, I think, is helpful, and having a calendar and writing stuff down. You have an audition, you have a shoot, you have, all your stuff going on, you write that down, and you write the homework that you have, and plan out when you're going to do everything so stuff doesn't get put on the back burner and you get everything done.
Well, those sounds like great ideas, and it seems like you're just going about this in such a smart way.
Thank
So
you.
let me just ask, because I want to just kind of do a little recap of everything here in a minute. Can you hang on for a few minutes, and then I like to go to the question and answers in just a couple of minutes. So are you okay with hanging out a little bit?
Sounds great, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so let me do a little recap, and then we will start with the Q&A.
Sounds great.
Wow, this has been an incredible day. Right before I wind things up, I wanted to ask, hey Joel, would you mind explaining to everybody just one more time exactly how they can send their questions in for the three of us?
Absolutely. So if you'd like to be part of the question and answer, there's a form directly below this video. If you're listening live to us, you just scroll down to that form. You can type your question in. And then what I'm able to do is I'm able to read that question to Aaron and his guests live on the air in just a few moments here after he's done wrapping up, and then we can have those questions answered for you. So just go right below this video, enter your question in, and I'll be able to ask Aaron and his guests those questions on your behalf.
Great. Thank you very much, Joel. Well, let me first just say this has been a wonderful day. And I also just wanted to let you all know, I mean, you guys are doing what most people dream about and talk about and fantasize about. And I mean, it's like there's so many people who I've met that tell me I want to do acting, I want to do modeling. I'm sure people can find me on the streets and things will happen. I mean, as you guys know, this takes work. It takes time, it takes effort. But the incredible thing is when you get the right information and you know what you're doing, that's how things can happen for you. So just a couple things to keep in mind as we're winding up this session. Number one is don't feel rushed. Don't feel like you've got to do all this tomorrow. I mean, what I just supplied with you today, I mean, there are like 50 different websites and listservs that you're going to have access to. So take your time with it and, spend time at these places. See if these are, good sites for you, if they're offering you information that is helpful to you. And, just be smart about it. And the other thing too is, and I know I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but just make sure that you are prepared so that when opportunities do come up, you're ready to perform, you're able to do what's being asked of you. But as you've learned throughout the day, there's a lot of stuff out there. And sometimes you do have to think a little bit differently, but there are lots of ways of using your skills and all the things that you've worked so hard at over these years to actually get work. And I can tell you, for me, it's not a matter of needing to be the leading guy in a feature film or being the star of a television series. I mean, personally, I just like to work. And I get excited whether it's a local commercial modeling job, whether it's a job in an independent film. It doesn't really make any difference. I just love working. And I'm hoping that this information will give you the knowledge to be able to do what you want to do, whether it's on a full-time basis or even on a part-time basis. So, congratulations to all of you for taking the initiative and the time to be doing this and learning this. And if you have any questions at all, you can always feel free. You can email me. My personal email address is Aaron. It's AARON @howtomodel.com. And all this, you'll see it in the recording. I have it on the first slide and the last slide. And you can also go to the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/how-to-model. And what would be great is if you do go to the Facebook page and like the page and to help join and make this page a larger community for the acting and modeling world. And it's a great place for people to hang out, people to ask questions, people to learn from other people. And that's why I love building a community filled with people who are really trying to help each other. So basically, that's what I wanted to say to you. I had a wonderful time today. I love the guests that I brought on. And we're ready to do some question and answers now. So hopefully, Joel, if you are ready to get things going here, let's answer some questions.
I've got some questions, and I want to jump right into them if you guys are ready for them.
Sure.
So our first question is from Frank Kelly. He says, based on your extra work comments, so I guess this is about getting extra work, is it a good idea to put extra work on your resume?
Well, I definitely have some ideas, and I would certainly, allow Adam if you want to say something, or Shanna if you guys have any ideas, and then I can come in last.
I can tell you what I do. I don't mention my background work on my resume, simply because if I were to do that, there wouldn't be any room for anything else. But the main reason is your resume is a really great tool to indicate to the industry what types of roles you're right for. And as a background player, there really is no type, because you're in the frame for so little time that it doesn't really make a difference. That would be what I would say.
And for you, Shanna?
I would, if I'm an extra and I have a line and something that I can use for my reel, I would definitely say that. Or if it's a big project and I feel like if you were a pretty big part of the film, then I would put it on my resume, definitely.
Yeah, typically, if you have a line, then that's going to take you out of that category of just being an extra. That means you're either a day player, but it's true. It's a tricky thing, and I've heard different comments from different people. I'll give you both sides of it, and then I'll tell you my opinion. Some people will say, well, let me put the extra work on my resume, and if I was specifically brought in because I have this upscale, wealthy look and it's a fancy party, and that's what I put on the resume, then at least it lets people know that I've had some experience on a set. I know, what goes on. I know what to do on a set. And some people will do that, but you've got to make it very clear, and I would put extra on there. You don't want to try and fool a casting director, or sometimes that's how people view it. Oh, they're trying to fool me into thinking that you really had a part here, but you really were only an extra. My suggestion, though, is not to put it on, because being an extra doesn't tell the casting director or producer or director anything about your acting skills. That means you might have the right look for a certain part, and also, it depends on how carefully the casting director is casting the extras. There are some casting directors who are very, very particular. You've got to submit photos in order to, be considered. But then again, if they're filling up, a stadium and you're one of 20,000 people, then it really doesn't matter. So, Frank, my feeling is I would not put down the extra work. If you've never done anything else and you have absolutely nothing else on your resume, and when you were the extra, it was a very specific type of look, then maybe, put that in there, but make it very clear that you were an extra, so you're not, being viewed as someone who's trying to fool somebody. But, typically you really don't want to put extra work on a resume.
Okay. Thanks, guys. So let me be a little more directive here because there's a little confusion on who's going to answer what. So here's a question from Judy, and Judy asked this question, and I'm gonna divvy it out to here. How is the best way to make a lasting impression at an audition? I wondered if I could hear from Adam first, Shanna next, and then Aaron, if you'd wrap us up. How do you guys make a lasting impression? What are some things you do when you go to an audition to really just nail it with the casting director? Why don't we hear from Adam first, and then we'll go to Shanna next.
That's an excellent question, and it definitely shows that you're kind of thinking in the right direction, because the main goal that, I don't know about anybody else, the main goal that I have when I walk into an audition is to somehow separate myself from the pack and leave an indelible impression on that on whoever is behind the table, the casting director, the producer, anyone. And there are a few ways that I try to accomplish that. The first one is the slate, which we talked about earlier. And the second one is, there's something that I learned from a great teacher of mine. His name was Rodney Robb, and he said that it's really important to do your moment before and the closing reaction shot. Moment before meaning whatever the copy is, whatever you're about to act. In theory, something happened before that. So we don't pick up characters at the beginning of a scene. We pick them up in the middle of a scene. So I always try to come up with who I'm talking to and what I want from that person and what was just said, or what the feeling in the room is just before I start the copy. And then at the end of the copy, you do what's called a closing reaction shot. And the way you do that is you add an extra line onto the copy, but you say it in your head, and then it comes through in your behavior. Now, if you can do those two things, if you can slate really well and you can do opening and closing reaction shots, you've just separated yourself from 90% of the people who are going to walk in that room.
Okay, great. Can we hear from you, Shanna? Are there things you do to make a lasting impression with at an audition?
Yes, definitely. I feel like if you go into the room and you are really upbeat and seem happy to be there, then that, I think, automatically separates you from the people who are just, running in to audition, really nervous. But I feel like if you actually enjoy being there and you try being personable with the person, then I think that separates you a lot. And I agree with the slate. It's really important to have a slate that stands out, that kind of shows your personality, because a slate is actually part of your audition. They film it. And so I had an audition once where they said, okay, then say something interesting about yourself. And you want to say something that really is individual to you. So I just said my favorite animal is a sloth because I feel like that's something unique to me. And they really enjoyed that because it's something that they haven't heard and it's kind of funny. And so I feel like that separates you out from the pack a lot. And then at the end, when they say, okay, is there anything else? Do you have any questions? I feel that it is really important for you to think of a question and ask a question that's relevant, just to show that you're really interested in the project.
Great. And Aaron, when I ask you this question, I want to kind of piggyback on what Shannon just said about really standing out in a different way. Is it okay to stand out and be so drastically different from other people, or are they going to kind of see that as a red flag? And are there some things you do to really stand out at auditions?
Well, I think and first of all, I agree with everything that was said. I think ultimately it's your goal to be great. And when you are great, then you will stand out. And just to kind of continue with the same line of thinking, it is true. When you walk in that room, even before you get to the slate, they've already analyzed you. They've already seen whether, is this somebody who could possibly do this part? Is this somebody that we would want to be around? And it's true. A lot of times you get very, grumpy actors who've been waiting a while and they've traveled long distances and they walk in and, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm tired. Oh my God, the traffic was just horrible. It's like they don't want to hear any of that. They really don't. They might ask you how you are, and you're great. You're feeling great. You're happy to be there, just like Shanna said, and that's really true. And I think a couple of other things. One is never show desperation and never show nervousness. And I'm not saying don't feel those things, because, look, sometimes we are really scared. That's just a fact of life. And, the important thing is go in there with the attitude and have this little mantra in the back of your mind. If I book this job, it's going to be great. And if I don't book this job, it's going to be great. Because either way, you'd love to do it, but if it doesn't happen, that's all right. You'll get something else. And that's the kind of attitude you want to have throughout the entire process, because they want to hire and work with people who exude confidence. And I think that's really important. And the one other thing, Joel, that you had asked about, I also think it's really important to go with your instincts. Do not try to figure out what the casting director or the director might be looking for, because you have no idea. And most importantly, don't play it safe. If you do an audition and you think, well, I don't know, this might not be right, or they might find it, kind of crazy, it just might not, fit things properly. Typically what happens is a lot of times people do the audition with the idea of they don't want to do anything wrong. And what normally happens is your audition is boring and it's bland because there's nothing of interest in there. And the thing is, even if you took that character in the wrong direction, then as long as you physically look right for the part and you give an interesting read, that should be enough to get a callback. And when you get that callback, they will give you more information, because most of the time when we go to read, especially if it's for a film, we have no idea what's going on. I shouldn't say we have no idea, but we don't have that much information about the entire film or the character. So you've got to make decisions based on the sides, on the information that you're given. And even if it's not right, as long as you do it in a convincing way, you make the words sound conversational, there's something that makes the character come to life, then at least that should get you a callback, and then you'll be given more specifics. And I guess the last thing is, if you are given direction, like Shanna was saying, take the direction and listen to what they have to say, even if you don't think it's right. Because ultimately, you're not directing this project. You're not writing it. You're not the producer. And sometimes they will ask you to do something that they don't want you to do, only to see if you can take direction, to make sure you're not a one-trick pony, and to make sure that you can actually act. So, I guess, Judy, just to kind of sum up, everything that we've all been saying is, number one, enjoy it. Enjoy the process, have a good time in there, play with it, go with your instincts, and when you walk out, no matter what happened in that audition, you walk out of there like you've given the greatest performance of your life. Because for the actors who kind of hang their head because they know they goofed up and they messed up some of the words and they didn't understand it, then you're leaving a very negative kind of attitude. So walk out of there with your head held high. I always say, hey, good luck with this project. Hope to see you soon, or something like that. Or, just, best of luck with this project. Thanks for the audition. And I walk out. And it was a nice day at work. And I think it leaves everybody with a nice feeling.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Shanna. Thanks, Adam. Okay, so switching gears a little bit. This is a two-part question, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. This is from Stein Iceland. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. This guy's from Norway. Stein's from Norway. and he basically wants to be an actor in Los Angeles, but right now he's living in Norway. He's Norwegian. So his question is, how do I get permission to live in Los Angeles as Norwegian? And he asks, about getting into Hollywood. Of course, he has to move to Los Angeles. He understands that. But what are the plain steps? 1, 2, 3. How does he go about doing that? Aaron and Shanna, I know you've had some work in Los Angeles, but you live in Denver. Maybe you guys want to tag team on this and help answer his question. And again, I'll let you guys go ahead and answer that.
You want to go first, Shanna?
Sure. Let's see, I'm not positive about the local work in Norway, but if there is things out there, which in the Colorado, there's a lot of local work, I would start there and build up a reel for yourself, which is, little excerpts from different films you've been in that show a variety of your acting skills. And I would start from there and build a resume and a reel before you consider going out to California. So that way you don't have to go there and start to scramble and get experience. You can get experience at home, and then when you're comfortable and you've gotten work, then try and go out to the California market. And I would say start at home and try and build those experiences, because a lot of people in California have had work and have experience, so you kind of want to, when you go there, jump in with the crowd instead of starting a step behind.
Great. And Adam, I just wanted to ask, just in case you had something that you wanted to add to it, I just wanted to open that up to you as well.
Yeah, I just have a couple of thoughts. I mean, obviously, I'm a little bit out of my depth here because I don't work in Los Angeles, being an East Coaster. But one thing I would say is first bloom where you're planted. So just all the stuff that Shanna was talking about just now of trying to find some local work and really getting your name out there and assembling a reel for yourself. Those are all excellent tips.
And I guess just a couple of other things I just wanted to add to that. And you're right. I mean, you do have to move to Los Angeles if you want representation with a Los Angeles agent. What would probably be of real help to you is to first try to find a manager in Los Angeles, if that is the area that you want to live in, or New York, in either city, because the managers are the ones who can really help guide you more. They can help connect you with the agents. And one of the things you can do is if you just get a copy of the call sheet, or you can go online, or you can go to the Talent Managers Association and find a ton of managers. And then once you feel like your resume is strong enough, you've got a great headshot, then I would contact the the manager right away, and first let the manager know that you are going to be in Los Angeles on a certain date, because unless you are a very, very well-established talent, people aren't going to want to work with you if you live 3 hours away on a regular basis, unless you are you've made a real commitment to always going to auditions, because auditions, especially in LA, happen last minute. So that's the very first thing. A whole other area that you're going to have to deal with after finding a manager is you're going to have to do, there are some legal things that you're going to have to deal with, and I'm not an attorney, so I can't give you legal advice, but you're going to have to get some kind of work permit in order to work in the United States if you're not a citizen, just like we have to get work permits to work in Canada or in Europe, and things like that. So that's something that a manager would be able to help you with. But I think the most important thing is, getting yourself ready, contacting managers and or agents if you would like to ahead of time. Let them know when you're going to be in LA, and it might take a couple of trips to set up appointments ahead of time and say, look, I'm going to be moving to Los Angeles on these dates. I will be there. I'd like to meet with you and talk with you about representation, and see what happens with that. But you also, don't forget, you will need to talk with them about whether it's a green card, work permit, but that is something that you will need to deal with once you've made that commitment to come to the States.
Thanks, guys. So switching gears again, this question's from Devin, and I'm going to direct this at Aaron and Adam. And again, Shanna, you can certainly chime in as well, but after I read the question, you'll see why this is directed at these two guys. But Devin says, I want to study acting and am considering transferring colleges to do so. Would you suggest transferring to school in California or New York? Right now I'm studying at the University of Michigan. I know, Adam, you've had some experience at Syracuse, and Aaron, I think you might have some things to comment about this. So,
Adam, why don't you go first?
Yeah, U of M is a great school. I don't know if we can get clarification, but they've got a great musical theater program. I know that much. Anywho, there's a couple things I would say about the transferring schools. When I was going to school, I thought that your getting a BFA and getting your education in acting and kind of doing a conservatory style program was really important, and I still do. I think it's a really important thing to do. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, it changed my life and it changed my whole paradigm about acting. But the reality is when you go to New York or LA and you show someone your resume, it really isn't as important where you went to school as it used to be, unless you've gone to Juilliard or Carnegie Mellon, Yale, their grad program. Unless you really hit one of those programs, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I think when you're thinking of transferring schools, you should be focusing on obviously the quality of the curriculum. So are you getting your needs met? And where you fit in, because every different school, I auditioned for 9 schools on the Eastern Seaboard, when I was considering where to go. And each and every one of them had a different culture, just like every company has a different culture. And I think what matters most is that you go with your gut instinct about where you think you would fit in the best. So number one piece of advice is go visit the school. Don't do one of those remote auditions. I think you need to really go visit the campus and have a look. And just go with your gut.
And the one other thing I would add to that is, I would, if you are definitely going to switch schools, I would choose a school in the city, and once again, like with what Adam said, to make sure that it's a perfect fit for you, but I would pick the school that's in the city you want to work in. Because you'll find that if you are in a school in LA, you will make contacts. Hopefully, you'll be making contacts through the school with LA people. And if you're in a school in New York, I'm assuming they will, bring in people, industry professionals. You'll be able to audition for them, make contacts with them. So if you are planning on switching schools, I would definitely choose the city that is right for your acting interests.
That's great advice. Thanks for the question, Devin. A question from Roseanne, and this is open to all of you guys, but we'll start maybe with Adam and then go to Shanna and then to Aaron. Is the approach to finding work in musical theater dramatically different than trying to penetrate the film industry? And maybe you want to expand on that after you answer it.
Well, the short answer is yes. But in other ways, the answer is also no. I mean, I know I have a lot of friends who are, musical theater actors, and they attend, every morning they go to what's called the EPA, and that's when you're living in New York. EPA is short for Equity Principal Auditions, and the thing about Actors Equity, the theater union that actors belong to, is that the union requires producers to have actors seen. So even if they've kind of precast in their head who they want for that particular project, they've got to give everybody else a chance. That's what's known as the EPAs. My friends have been, I've had a couple friends get some work out of those auditions. And that's why I said yes originally. But I also say that it is the same as going for film, because you still need to be going through the quote unquote traditional channels of getting work. So you need to be going to open calls. You need to be talking to agents and managers and doing your mailings and and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, but basically, look, they're both hard. I think musical theater, in some ways, is more difficult only because there are fewer opportunities. At least in the acting world, I mean, there are so many things that we just talked about of, different areas of the business where you can use your skills. But for musical theater, if it's not, cruise lines, theme parks, and theaters, there's really, I'm right off the top of my head, I can't think of many other places. And there are always a lot of people, who want to do this. And just like any kind of film audition, you've got to look the part. I guess the difference is with musical theater is, quite often, not only do you have to be able to act, you also have to be a great singer, and sometimes you have to be a great dancer too. So, in some ways, I think it can be a little bit more difficult with musical theater. And the other thing too is it's harder to make a living in musical theater. And I'm not trying to try to get people to stay away from it at all. I mean, boy, I'm so thankful that there are so many people that are doing musical theater because I love watching it. But it's a difficult way to go. But as far as the process, I agree with Adam. I mean, it's going to be pretty much the same process. There are some specifics that are a little bit different. Where they do allow non-union people to audition. Where for most films, it's a lot easier if you are already in the union, SAG-AFTRA. But anyhow, it's a very similar process. You're going to have either a manager or an agent, depending on what area you're in. And you go and you've got to audition for it, and people have to really like what you're doing.
Very good. Yep. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the question. So we've got about 2 more questions we're going to have time for. Thank you for sending in all your questions, everybody. We'll try to get to those individually if we can't get through them here. We're going to do about 2 more, though, on the call here because we're going to be wrapping this up. This one's from Frank. He says, teleprompter question. How important is it for new actors to learn to read from a teleprompter? I heard that some audition sessions are now using teleprompters. Who wants to take that one?
I'd be more than happy. If anybody wants to jump in first, that's fine.
Okay.
Oh, I can just say I've never had an audition with the teleprompter. I've practiced it, just even making note cards and having people change them for you to practice it just in case you do get into the situation. I haven't in California seen one like that yet, and in Colorado there haven't been any, but I definitely think that it is something that you can practice just in case.
Adam, did you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, certainly. I would just say that if you're close to any kind of major city, chances are there's someone teaching a class on commercial and voiceover. And what I would say is, I know the way that I learned it. I took a commercial and voiceover class, and one of the sessions they do teleprompter, and then it's really, I mean, it's quite, I would say it takes a couple hours to learn, and then from there on out you can put teleprompter proficient in your special skills on your resume. Have I ever had to use it? No.
Yeah, I use teleprompters. I mean, I'd say it's not unusual for me to use a teleprompter. I've never had, well, I should take it back. The one time I used a teleprompter at an audition was for a training film, and that's how the film was going to be shot. And for industrial films, especially if you are an on-camera narrator, and basically you're the one who's standing up and just talking for long stretches, sometimes you might be introducing a scene that other actors are going to be involved with, and then it comes back to you. Or sometimes it's just you. I've done a number of government films where I used a teleprompter as an on-camera narrator. But as far as auditions go, I think I've only had that once or twice in my life. Even when I use it for an actual job, they'll just give me the script to read. But like Adam was saying, it's a very helpful skill to have, because you never know when you might get booked for a job where they need a teleprompter. And there's even a program, and if you send me an email, I can try to look it up for you. There's an online a website where you can practice using a teleprompter, which is pretty cool. And yeah, you definitely want to be proficient at it, because if you do get booked for it and they're using it, it's great. I mean, you have to be very familiar with the script, but you don't have to memorize it, and especially if it's one of these training films where you're just going for page after page after page after page after page with a lot of technical information or complicated stuff. There's just no way you'd be able to memorize it, so you would need to be proficient using a teleprompter.
Okay, great answers, guys. Thank you. So last question for this question and answer session. I'm going to go ahead and ask it. We'll go to Adam and Shanna, and then Aaron, whenever you answer this, kind of just wrap us up a little bit, and then I've got a few things to say before we close out today. But this is from Delia. She asks, can you include commercials on your resume, and is there any particular format that's best to use on a resume? Adam and Shanna, do you guys have any comments on listing commercials on your resume? And then Aaron, after they're done, you want to go ahead and close us out.
Listing commercials on your resume. There's I'll tell you the way that I format my resume. I think it's been working pretty well. I do film and television first, and then I do theater, and then right under that there's a little box that says commercial and voiceover, conflicts available upon request. So, oftentimes if you are just starting out and let's say maybe you've booked a commercial here or there, or you've done a couple of voiceover spots, you might consider listing them, maybe between film and theater on your resume. But once you start kind of building up the resume a little bit, once again, it goes back to the first question we answered about extras, is that those credits are not as descriptive about the kind of type that you fit into as, say, your theater credits would be, or some of the film credits that you've done. So do I list commercial and voiceover on my resume? I do not. I have a separate list that they can look at if they ask, if anybody asks. But I don't find it helpful to list them on my resume simply because they're not as descriptive about the kind of types that I can play.
Yeah, I also, on my resume, I have a separate, under my TV, I have film TV, and then I have commercials also available upon request. And the reasoning behind that, for me at least, is, let's say I do a commercial for McDonald's, and then I have a upcoming audition for Burger King. You're not necessarily going to get the call in if they see that you just did a commercial for McDonald's. And so unless they ask, then it's probably best not to say specifics just for rivalry companies, so they aren't discouraged to use you in their project. And so that's the reasoning behind my commercials available upon request on my resume.
Yeah, that's a great point. As a matter of fact, the next workshop that we have coming up is how to put together a great resume, and we're going to spend the entire hour just talking about resumes. But once again, there are two philosophies, two ways of thinking about listing commercials. But like what Shanna was saying, typically your agent, if they're going to send you to an audition or submit you, hopefully they're going to ask, do you have any conflicts running for this particular product? So, if it's a fast food restaurant commercial, they should ask you, do you have any conflicts running? That means, do you have another television commercial running for a competitor to this, or whether it's for running shoes or soft drinks or, whatever it is. So that is also another, great reason for putting list available upon request. But here's the thing. So let's say if you did a TV commercial for a specific restaurant and it ran for one cycle, which is 13 weeks, and this was 3 years ago, and it stopped running. well, then there are no conflicts. But if you do list it and you put down McDonald's, then they're going to look at it, and this is for Burger King, they're going to look at it and say, this person did something for Burger King as a competitor. They don't even know whether it's still running, whether it, just stopped running 2 weeks ago or whether it was years ago. So, yeah, I agree with everybody. Don't list them. Now, here's another way of thinking just to kind of confuse things. There are some people who will say, look, if you've only done 1 or 2 commercials, why don't you list them? Just to let people know that you've done it. And there is something to be said for that. And especially if it's a TV commercial that's not going to have conflicts. And, there are plenty of commercials that people have done. Maybe it's for a certain association, or maybe it's a public service announcement where you don't have to worry about conflicts. Then maybe that can be helpful just to show that you have done TV commercials. I can tell you, nobody has ever asked me to list, if I put list available upon request, which I do have on my resume, nobody's ever asked me, hey, send me the list. All they really care about is, do you currently have any TV commercials running that are conflicts for this particular project? So, I think it's a great idea to either, if you've only done, 1 or 2 commercials and it's not going to create an issue with a lot of other companies, maybe put it down there. Otherwise, without a doubt, just put list available upon request. And the only thing that the agent will ask you is, do you have any conflicts that are currently running? And then, and by the way, be honest. Do not lie about that. I heard of a horror story of somebody who lied because they didn't want to lose this other job. And there were a lot of legal ramifications because they spent a tremendous amount of money shooting a commercial, and then somebody on the set said, wait a minute, I think I just saw you in a commercial for our competitor. So anyhow, as difficult as it is to turn it down, turn it down. Be honest with them. Don't lie about whether you have another commercial running, at the same time.
Very good. Well, guys, thank you so much to both Adam and Shanna for being with us. If you'd like more information about Adam Wahlberg and his work, you can visit his website at ace-your-audition.com. That's Ace Your Audition, just put dashes between each word, .com. And if you want to find out more about Shanna and her work, you can go to Shanna, SHANNA Grace.com, ShannaGrace.com, to find out more about Shanna's work and see both of their demo reels and all their information at both those websites. Adam and Shanna, thank you guys so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
It's been really fun to have you guys on board and all the stuff you've
Thanks a lot. Had a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks so much. So let me just wrap up here real quickly. Aaron, also thank you so much for hosting us. This has been an incredible workshop. If you'd like more information about How to Model and all the different programs and resources that How to Model offers, just visit our website at howtomodel.com. You can also email Aaron directly at aaron@howtomodel.com. That's AARON at howtomodel.com. Aaron offers private coaching for people that are interested in working with him one-on-one. If you send him an email and say, listen, I want to work with you one-on-one, he'll get all of the information to you, because there's some people that want to just jumpstart their career. They'd like to work with Aaron and have him walk them through the steps, personal and tailored to their position wherever they are in the world, whatever city they're in, whatever market they're trying to get into, and Aaron can work with you one-on-one. He's got his private coaching. I believe there's a few more spots open for this month. If you can't get in this month, you can get in a following month, but just send him an email and he can get you more information. In the subject line, just put private coaching request, and he'll be able to get you all of that information at aaron@howtomodel.com. Like Aaron mentioned, we've got another workshop coming up. It's called Resume Secrets, how to assemble and put together an amazing resume. We've got an incredible guest, Sean Pratt, for that. We're going to talk about all of the elements. We touched on some of them today, but we're going to go into all of the elements that are required for a resume that grabs attention and gets you more paid acting and modeling jobs. So stay tuned for that information, and we'll be sending that to you very soon. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Shanna. We will talk to everybody soon. Everyone have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later.